Hello, welcome back to Zekism. So, South Park was renewed. I was blissfully unaware of this until my brother told me about it earlier today. They reached a deal when it looked all was lost this time last week, with them rebelling over the accusing Sundance of influencing renewal. I mean, they did have a $3 billion streaming deal on the table. Now it's been lowered to 1.5, so obviously Sundance have halved it. But seemingly South Park creators reached $1.5 billion streaming deal with Paramount. The creators of Comedy Central South Park reached a breakthrough on Monday in intense negotiations over the streaming rights of the long-running satirical cartoon. Paramount agreed to buy the global streaming rights for South Park to bring the show to the company's digital service, Paramount Plus, for the first time in the US, according to three people close to the negotiations who were not authorized to comment. The deal with Trey, Parker and Matt Stone through their Park County production company, which we went into detail about that last week, values of the global streaming rights at $300 million a year, according to two of the people close to the agreement, who could not discuss the matter publicly because the deal is not final. The 5-year deal means the show will fetch $1.5 billion for streaming alone. The Sun preserves the show's status as one of the world's most valuable TV franchises. Who'd have thought 20 years ago, eh? As part of the deal, Park County agreed to produce 10 episodes a year. Paramount was eager to bring the cartoon home. In 2019, previous corporate managers licensed South Park to rival HBO Max, as Paramount's streaming service was still in development, but that decision left Paramount Plus out in the cold, much like the fictional mountain town of Colorado. Yes, of course. And the HBO Max deal expired in late June. Paramount this spring offered HBO Max and its parent Warner Bros. Discovery an option to co-license the show, which could have given the four boys a home on two streaming services, Paramount Plus and HBO Max. But over the weekend and on Monday, in talks with Warner Bros. Discovery collapsed, prompting Paramount to go it alone, according to one of the knowledgeable sources. Both sides were motivated to reach a deal before Wednesday, when Paramount's Comedy Central channel kicked off the 27th season of South Park. We'll get into that in a minute. The premiere date has already been postponed once amid behind-the-scenes drama, as Paramount prepared to be sold to David Ellison's Skydance Media. Paramount and Skydance also wanted to avoid any public relations fiascos when Stone and Parker take the stage Thursday at FanFest Comic-Con in San Diego. So that's probably going on right now when I'm recording this. Thanks to an arrangement dating back to 2007, Park County is entitled to nearly half of the show's streaming revenue through a joint venture with Paramount called South Park Digital Studios. The revenue sharing arrangement should enable Paramount to eventually recoup about half of the licensing fee that it agreed to pay for streaming rights. Months of deal talks were complicated by Paramount's pending sale to Skydance. In addition, the two sides have been separately negotiating a new overall deal for Parker and Stone to renew their previous $900 million pact that kept the show on Comedy Central with new episodes through 2027. Parker and Stone's team are seeking a higher valuation in order to produce new seasons. Skydance has the authority to approve major Paramount transactions as part of an arrangement it struck last year with the company's board, and initially Park County asked for a 10-year deal, but Skydance balked, insisting on a shorter span given the uncertain television landscape. So technically they got what they wanted, which was the $3 billion 10-year deal. It's just halved in terms of the duration. So it seems like that was an easy sticking point to get beyond. The high-stakes negotiation became strained last week, prompting Park County to enlist Bulldog litigators Stuart Liner and Brian Friedman. That's Trey and Matt getting those on board to prepare a lawsuit. But by the week's end, the talks were back on track. Various sides agreed on a 5-year term rather than a 10-year span. See, we heard last week that Skydance were looking to reduce the money and the term. So seemingly, the deal was that we just halve it to a 5-year deal rather than a 10, but they still got the same amount of money. So that's crazy that it seemingly, Trey and Matt really won if you think about it. I don't want to say the heart's not in it anymore, but definitely they aren't as invested in making South Park as they once were. But that said, I think they're doing it on their terms, which brings us to the season premiere, which I mean, has launched with a bang. Trump White House rages over South Park episode, calls the show fourth rate. President cowed Paramount execs, but the company's talent is rebelling. Now the administration is melting down. Now, first of all, this is Rolling Stone, so I've picked a slightly biased. Yes. So in the episode, which we'll get into the details of, go away, Rolling Stone. Yeah, I mean, as you can see on screen, the episode depicts a really, overtly satirical portrayal of President Trump as essentially the Saddam Hussein character from the early 2000s. It was a fixture of the film as well from the late 90s. And they've just replaced him with the current president. They're not pulling any punches here. Once was Mr. Garrison posing as a portrayal of President Trump. Now we're all in. The gloves are off, so to speak. And you got to ask why. Why are the gloves off all of a sudden? They're usually very more, I don't want to say subtle because it's South Park, but there is overtly, especially with President Trump, they have been very sort of measured. You don't get the feeling that they're fans of him, but nevertheless it's been very measured. Now the gloves are off, so I can only assume they have got annoyed with him because that's the way they operate. Donald Trump's White House is melting down over Wednesday night's South Park premiere, which just so happened to attack the president's teeny tiny manhood and depict him as literally in bed with the devil, effectively taking over the role on the show by the late genocidal dictator Saddam Hussein. The left's hypocrisy truly has no end. For years they have come after South Park for what they labelled as offence content, but suddenly they are praising the show, Trump White House spokesperson Taylor Rogers told Rolling Stone in a statement this morning. Just like the creators of South Park, the left has no authentic or original content, which is why their popularity continues to hit record lows. This show hasn't been relevant for over 20 years and is hanging by a thread. With uninspired ideas and a desperate attempt for attention, President Trump has delivered on more promises in just 6 months than any other president in our country's history, and no fourth-rate show can derail President Trump's hot streak. Now, I'm not interested in getting involved in politics or political. I don't care enough, to be honest with you. First of all, I'm in the UK, so it doesn't really affect me. Second, again, I stay middle on everything. I really don't take sides in any political argument. I don't see the benefit, and I certainly don't want to nail my mast to any political cause, or I'm very objective when it comes to every policy, so I'm not going to show support for any particular side in this argument. However, it is interesting why they felt the need to sort of, like I said, the spokesperson brief the media on how what you do is just shrug it off. If you're in this position, you just shrug it off, and then you by giving the fire oxygen, you know what I mean, that sort of is a victory lap for whoever's attacking you. You know what I mean? The episode came just hours after it was reported that Paramount had agreed to buy, so it was really last minute. The twice impeached, repeatedly indicted president has for decades harboured intense, mean-spirited pop culture fixations, and that personality trait has not changed 6 months into his second administration. It would be easier to shrug off his celebrity obsessions as mere cattiness if waging war on late-night television. Its corporate owners weren't an actual facet of his administration. I mean, here we go into the personal now. This is, of course, Rolling Stone, a very left-wing leaning media. So they're in full support of what South Park's doing, even though if South Park targeted one of theirs, they'd be all against it, because that's just the way it works. But nevertheless, the fact they've had to brief on it is like I said, don't give the oxygen to them. Prior to the White House statement, it's a statement from the White House, man. Rolling Stone had asked several Trump advisors if clips of the latest South Park episode had been circulating amongst Trump staff. One senior administration official replied, of course, noting how much their phone had lit up about it. A Trump advisor had also said they'd seen it, and that as a longtime fan of the series, they found it disappointing. Trump recently secured a hefty payout from Paramount to settle his meritless lawsuit. Again, that's not unbiased journalism. Meritless lawsuit against CBS News' 60 Minutes, based on his claims that the show selectively edited an interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris, his 2024 opponent, to make her look better. The agreement is part of a broader pattern of major corporations settling Trump's baseless lawsuits, agreeing to shovel millions of dollars into his presidential library fund to accommodate the president. The Paramount settlement comes as the outfit seeks regulatory approval for its merger with Skydance and appears to contain more than just a payout to Trump's library fund. According to Trump, the deal includes a $16 million settlement as well as $20 million from the new owners in advertising, PSAs, or similar programming. So that's essentially, and I think this had this confirmed, that's $20 million paid to Trump from the new owners in advertising, PSAs, or similar programming. That's creating programming, I would imagine, of benefit for the administration, which is really interesting, and there may be ramifications for that coming. South Park specifically skewered the reported PSA arrangement on Wednesday. The episode concluded with an AI-generated PSA showing a fully nude wandering the desert with a teeny tiny penis. Paramount has faced mounting criticism over its efforts to cozy up to Trump. The executive producer of 60 Minutes quit in April, saying he was no longer allowed to make independent decisions running the show. The company's moved to part ways with host Stephen Colbert, which we covered again last week, and permanently end The Late Show was created an uproar too. Earlier this week, Colbert responded to Truth Social post from Trump in which the president said he hoped he was the reason that Colbert had been fired. And there's your quote from Colbert to Trump. So where are we with this? Well, South Park's still on the air, so that's good news for anyone like myself who's a big fan of South Park. It's back. It's renewed, so it's back on. They couldn't have taken the show elsewhere because Paramount owns the show, I believe, but Trey and Matt own the rights to make the show, so therefore they are sort of in need. So they had to, for South Park to continue, they had to do a deal, and I think it benefits both parties to do the deal. Trey and Matt got what they wanted, really, apart from the 10-year deal. To be honest, they seem like they wouldn't want a long-term deal anyway, so I think it benefits them as well that it's a 5-year deal, and then they can renegotiate in another 4 or 5 years. And who knows what the media landscape is going to be like in that time. Who knows if Paramount are even going to be around in that time, such as the sketchy media landscape that we live in at the moment. And the other thing, like I said, I'm not getting into politics. It is curious how the use of media is being played out on both sides. I sort of covered it with the Colbert thing, and again, I don't have allegiances either way. It is worrying how potentially networks could be curtailing to sitting so blatantly, sort of bending the knee. However, I'm sure that side would argue that's what media has been doing the last few years with the other side. So I think it's a problem. I think it's a systemic problem across the board. There should be independent journalism across the board. We know there isn't, because we know media, just the mass media, just doesn't work like that. And I think when it comes to this deal and the deals like it, I thought it's with the Colbert factor, and I think this probably goes with this as well. I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Did Colbert get cancelled because of, it was losing money for the network, or did he lose it because it was pressure exerted by the current administration? It's probably both. Let's be perfectly honest. And I think there's similar decisions are going to be made with the rest of late night, and South Park seemingly are safe for the next 5 years in terms of getting their money. With South Park as well, it's important to remember they skewer everybody. This is not them decrying or announcing that they're suddenly left-wing leaning and only left-wing leaning. They're gonna, if they see fit, they'll rip the out of a left-wing leaning politician as well, because that's just what they do. They skewer everybody, and so they should. If you're gonna have targets, if you're gonna skewer people, if that's your, I don't say their brand, but that's what the show does. They unless you're J-Lo, they don't pick on you usually personally, unless you've done something to knock them off. So I can only assume this is what's happened. They've got knocked off with the president and very blatantly, they've pointedly made it all about him. Look, his face is now replacing Saddam Hussein. That wasn't the case for years and years and years. They had Mr. Garrison acting as a sort of avatar for storylines involving such a character. And yeah, there was a bit of Mickey taking. I don't think it was overtly sort of negative towards him. It was more just like, oh, it's a bit silly, and isn't he a bit of a joke? That was probably about it. You know, maybe the aggression was pointed at. But here we are with them skewering him directly. What did you think? Did you watch it? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Let me know in the comment section below. Please leave me a like and subscribe on the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much. God bless South Park.